Hi everyone, I have some really good news. Our work management system is now operational. So as soon as Vera sent me that message, I decided to record a video on how to move an opportunity such that it gets a project attached to it automatically by the system, and then the key pieces of a project that you need to know about in order to conduct work management. So let's start off. We can see here that we have an opportunity. As you know, for generally speaking, you convert leads to opportunities so that it creates a new account, a new customer. The only time you should be creating a new opportunity is if it's a second phase or perhaps a second house, right? Because if in the case that it's a customer's second phase or second house, you don't need to create a new account or a new customer. They already exist in the system. So let's imagine that we are creating a second phase for an existing customer. So we're going to select existing account, existing customer, and we're going to make the location, first location that comes up. Okay, so quickly over here, I do want to talk about the product interest field. It's very, very important that going forward, the only options on here are cluster or Ishema. There is both a business reason for this and also a system reason for this. From a business perspective, we don't sell Damarara and Quijira anymore. We hardly even sell Ishema in Rwanda anyway. And pro bono and loan contracts, those are not really different products. Someone who builds a loan contract could still be building it in the format of a cluster construction project or an Ishema cluster construction project. Really, the pro bono and loan contracts, those are the type of contracts the person is assigned to, right? So for right now, I'm not going to delete these other values off this pick list because it might confuse people, but very, very soon these values will be gone. So to be clear, when it comes to product interest, it's either cluster or a schema. And then when it comes to the type of contract that person has, that's where you can select that it's, say, a loan contract or a pro bono contract. You can see here that I've made standard the default value. So if you don't change it, it will automatically just be a standard contract. So we're going to imagine this is a standard contract, and this person's, we'll make it an Ashema contract. This is another important piece. For the project's automation to fire, it needs to know what date you plan on starting the project on. Obviously, this could change, but it's very important that you put in your best guess for the start date and then you update it. If you choose not to update it, then what is going to happen is the dates that are created will be incorrect. So it's very important you put in the correct start date as best you know it, and then you update it. So let's say for this customer, I'm very confident they're going to start on Monday, April 22nd, 2019. As I said, this is a second phase. Okay. And then for stage, we're going to say they've already signed up. They're closed won. And these stages are important, okay? As you can see, this is a required field. It is important to update it to closed won. That is one of the key pieces you need for the automation to fire. If you're wondering why the automation isn't firing, it might be because you haven't put in a start date yet. It also might be because you haven't updated the stage to closed won. Expected close date, we'll say that that's today. I'm going to leave these fields blank. Actually, soon these won't even be editable. I'm going to select the first contract that comes up. This box, I know most of you can't see it. It isn't needed for the automation to fire, so do not worry about this box. Okay? We're going to say there are 2 installments. Country is Rwanda. Amount of contract, 20,000. Exchange rate. Okay. These fields down here are for automation. Only the system admin can actually use these. Okay. We're going to save. So now we have our theoretical second phase for this particular customer. And the question, of course, becomes, how do we then get the stages automation to fire? We can see now there is no project created. Well, first we need to calculate the square meters. In order to do so, we would, of course, need for a room to be attached. You cannot calculate the square meters if there's no room. Now we would need, you can create it on the account if it's a second phase. As we all know, if you convert a lead to an opportunity, what you should be doing is going to the account and then linking the rooms to the correct opportunity. I show that process very carefully in my other training video. But if we imagine this is a second phase, maybe we could do it this way. That's fine. Say this person's only going to build their bedroom. Okay. So now that we've created a room, we can calculate the square meters. Great. So that is done. We can see the square meters have already been calculated. We didn't even have to refresh the page. Now we're going to calculate the payment schedule. So we're going to say the deposit is 5,000 Rwanda francs. Put in that conversion rate, mark it as paid. Okay. We now can put in, so for a labor payment, as I said in the other training video, put in the amount of the customer money that's going towards labor. In Rwanda right now, we would prefer to put in 0, and it's now fine to put in 0. Okay, so I'm imagining that I don't need to allocate any of the customer money to labor. I can all consider it a material payment. That's fine. I'm just going to put in 0. And we can see now the payments, right? So check that these are correct first. You don't have to rush to clicking next. Check that this is actually what you want to create, right? Okay. Now that I clicked next, the records have been successfully created. We're going to reload the page to be safe. Okay, and if we go down, we see that this box has become automatically checked because I put in the deposit. And furthermore, we see that we have our payments automatically created by the system. Still no project. The reason being, the customer is not yet paid 50% of the contract value. If we go to edit here, let's imagine that this customer did pay. Okay, we're going to say they paid today. The payment date received in bank, we don't know that yet because we haven't brought the money to the bank yet. And we can actually see something really cool that Vera's done. They've made it so you don't have to fill these in anymore. These are auto-populated, which I'm sure everyone is very happy about. I don't have to calculate this anymore. It's in there as long as you use the calculate payment schedule. So you can see why using this button is very important, and neglecting to use it really just means you're not using the system properly in any way, shape, or form. So please always use the calculate payment schedule button. I'm going to say that it was paid in cash. I don't know the reception account name yet. So the last thing to update is paid. Okay. Now I've saved. Okay. Now if I reload, as a result of the payment being made, the project has been created. Okay? So to be very clear, the payment of this generated the creation of this project. Now something very important to notice is if you click into the project, only, and you can see that the project's been created. All this has been calculated or populated automatically. But you can see if you go to stages, there are only 5 stages right now, right? This is extremely important. In the old system, we automatically created all of the stages when the customer paid, actually none of the contract. But we had many customers, not many, but some, who dropped out after screeding, and we didn't know. We couldn't differentiate them. We had to go through and manually delete the tasks. Okay, no longer. These first 5 stages are created when the customer has paid their first installment. Okay? Just these 5 stages. And if we go in and we click, we can actually see not only is a stage created, but if we go to stage activities, we can see that there are service appointments. And what is a service appointment? A service appointment is what our masons or our field staff are expected to do to complete this stage. Okay, so you can see much better work management for us, much more ability to actually see what our workers are doing. Okay? So now, when we go into other stages, we can see it's the same. So we go to compaction, stage activities. We have to do the mason compaction and then the compaction evaluation. Okay? So now, if I go back to the opportunity, what happens if I check off the second material payment? Well, what'll happen, so put in paid, this was I guess also paid today. We have a very proactive customer, which is always good, paid in cash. And then we save. We can go to the project, and we see now there are 8 line items, right? The final group of line items, and line items, to be clear, are stages. So here, let me load this. And we can see those final group created, right? So varnishing, varnish drying, and final evaluation were not there before, but now they are there, right? And if we click into the varnishing stage, just for instance, we can actually see under stage activities that there's the applying varnish and also the crack repair service appointments. See, so we're getting a much better view once again of what our workers are actually doing. And you can also see here all the start dates have been created, right? So this is how long we expect it to take us to actually complete this project. And you're wondering perhaps, well, where do these start dates come from? Well, once again, unlike TaskRay, these dates are dynamic and they're based on the amount of square meters you input and also based on this start date, okay? So whatever I put in here as the start date is what the system is going to assume the day I want to start the project on, okay? So that's the basics of how you create. Just to go over again the key pieces, this does need to be updated to closed one. You need to have populated the start date. When you meet the first installment threshold, you can tell because this is checked off. And what I mean by first installment threshold is payments, right? Second installment payments. And then you can see down here if the stages have been created. Okay? And then, of course, this checkbox has to be checked, but that's by the system, right? So you do have to mark it as closed one. You do have to put in the start date, and then you have to calculate the square meters up here. Okay? So these are really the key automations in the system. And one of the key automations in the system. And that is what's going to help you generate a project automatically, and also going to help you generate all these stages and the service appointments associated with that project.